welcome everyone. Um, so we're going to be running through the session today. We've got a couple of hours. Lucy is going to be giving us a little bit of background information, but we are going to kind of just start off with a bit of an activity. Leading the session today, you've got myself, Jenny, who's from the Good Practice Mentors, and then we've also got Vicky.
Hello.
So we're going to be kind of switching between facilitation for the rest of the session. We're going to get a little bit of input from Lucy in a moment. So Vicky, if you can move us to the next bit. So I'll just give you a brief overview of today's session, and then we're going to dive into a bit of a warm-up. So you're going to get a bit of an overview of the current health and wellbeing strategy in your area from Lucy. So we're thinking kind of really local here and making it really relevant to the work that might be going on around you. Then we're going to bring it back out a little bit into some of the work that we do at Good Practice Mentors. And we're thinking about this working with community approach. So we're kind of framing it within co-production, involvement. We're going to be talking about different models today. A lot of today is going to be talking about reframing language to really appeal to your audience. So how do we kind of drill through some of the jargon and some of the language that we maybe use to help our communities understand what we're talking about? And then we're going to be thinking about how we align community with that strategic vision around health and well-being. And we hope that by attending today's session, you'll have that kind of gaining of confidence to have effective conversations around involving your community. So that's what we hope will happen today. Things might go a little bit off piece, you never know, they sometimes do. But we're going to dive into a bit of a warm-up activity now. And it's lovely that we've got a small group because we like to hear from lots of people in this activity. So we start the majority of our sessions with this. And if you come to any of the other co-production based GPM sessions, you would see this in practice as well. We would just love people to tell us which image kind of stands out for them today. So how do you feel today and why? So if you're happy to tell us which image you resonate with, that would be lovely. If you can't take yourself off mute, then please feel free to drop into the chat which image you've chosen and why, but we would love to hear some real life voices. I'm going to go first to give people a little bit of thinking time. So I'm going to go for number 7 today, which I have never chosen before in all the many months of doing this activity. I'm feeling a little bit tired today, I have to say, after somebody ran up my road at 3 in the morning and pushed over every single wheelie bin. From the bottom of the road to the top of the road, and it woke me up and I thought someone was breaking in the house. So I'm feeling a little bit bleary-eyed, but there's also lots going on for me in my work life and I've got lots to achieve. So yeah, tired, but loads and loads of different things in my head this morning. Is anyone else happy to share with us which image they've chosen and why?
I'll go. If that's all right. I'll say number 8. It feels a bit like juggling balls to me, and I think that's how I feel this morning, a little bit like I'm juggling lots and lots of little bits, both at home and at work, and just I think that's the nature of this role because it's county-wide and lots of different councils need lots of different things. I've got 3 sort of children that, well, I say children, my son's 20 now, and just they've got lots going on in their lives, so it just feels a bit like juggling, and so I think that's what number 8 resonated with me a little bit this morning.
Thank you, Lucy. And it's interesting, that's the first time I've had number 8 interpreted as juggling balls. So it's really nice to hear the different...
like lots going on in the air, lots of things. Yeah, I don't know.
Love it. Thank you. Anyone else happy to share with us? Again, feel free to drop into the chat, but we'd love to hear a real voice.
Yeah, can I go in?
Of course, Chris.
I'm going to go for number 5 because to me, I've got so many things like Lucy going on at the moment, but it's organised chaos. So with all the different shapes and different colours and everything, it looks a perfect picture, but it's all organised, but there's so many different factions to it. Yeah. And that's how I feel at the moment, is that I'm, again, juggling balls like Lucy, but I've got my ducks in a row.
Brilliant. Thank you, Chris. Thanks for sharing. And we've got Kathy in the chat going for number 1, saying beautiful, chaotic fusions of wondrous, colourful fun and creativity. I love that. And yet we often get quite a similar interpretation of number 1. Lots of things, but quite chaotic, but very beautiful. So yeah, thank you for sharing, Kathy. Is anyone else happy to share with us?
I'm happy to go.
Thanks, Tommy.
I would say for me, I would choose number 6. As a new member to the GPM team as program coordinator, I'm very much getting used to how my role and tasks overlaps and intersects with other people's, and just really trying to get used to the flow of things. So I'd say number 6 probably resonates with me the most today.
Thanks, Tommy. Anyone else happy to share?
I can go quickly. So I'm number 5 as well, for very similar reasons as what was described in terms of having lots of different things going on. And I didn't kind of resonate with, for me, with the organized chaos, but definitely lots. I'm working on 3 different projects, and some of them overlap, some of them are separate. So yeah, it's having all those kind of different colours, I guess, to represent the different projects, with some space in between though, and which is very important. And that's the downtime, and just trying to keep calm.
Thanks, Vicky. Any other final shares from anybody, either off me or in the chat? Brill. So I think at this point we are handing over to Lucy for a bit of background, a bit of an introduction.
Okay, so some of you may have heard, a couple of you, I certainly know Chris has heard me do a presentation before, but on health and wellbeing. But I think it's just to bring it back for councils on why this is part of a bigger picture, that this is not them. We're not asking councils to do any of this on their own. They're part of a much bigger picture in Worcestershire. And to know that that support is out there for them to access, and also the data, the information they may need to step forward and do a bit of work around health and wellbeing. So Worcestershire County Council have developed a 10-year strategy back in 2022. So we're sort of 3 years into it now. And that is the link to it. So if you do need to have a look at it, and it's a nice user-friendly document, actually. It's long, but it's not sort of full of too much jargon, which I think in this sector, you know, certainly when you go to some of the public health meetings, there's terms like LSOA banded around, which is a focus on sort of priority neighbourhoods at the moment. But what does that all mean? But that document is actually really user-friendly. So as councillors, I would really recommend just having a look at that to see what the bigger picture is and why we're all doing what we're doing. They describe that document as a living document. So obviously 10 years is quite a long time and things do change. I mean, we know massively at the moment change, not only with the unitary councils coming in, but just the leadership within our own council. You know, we've got a whole new leadership team in Worcestershire and they themselves are learning what this is. And so by having this strategy already written out, it's helping hopefully the new cabinet to understand what's going on in Worcestershire and why we're all doing what we're doing. So when they say it's a living document, you know, there is potential of things that may change slightly within it, but the general gist is still there because this document has been put together by lots of evidence working with NHS, voluntary sector and community partners and public consultation. So that's not going to change. But certainly, you know, looking at the actions that come from it, those are the things that can possibly change as you know the council has changed, as partners change and new partners come in. But basically the key priority is that good mental health and well-being, which is what we bang on about all the time. What does that mean? I can give you a quote from the World Health Organization. So it's where everyone is able to realise their potential, can cope with the normal stresses in life, can work productively and able to contribute to their community. That's the definition of what we mean by good mental health and well-being. And so it's basically just being able to get on with life, being happy, healthy and well. And it's not just about physical health. It's not just about mental health. It's about the whole. And so that's what we're looking at. And actually, mental and physical health are really, really interconnected. So if your mental health is well, generally, it encourages you to improve your physical health and basically make you lead a longer, healthy life. And so mental health is really, really important. So when we look at the sub-priorities, what does that mean? So it's looking at all ages. So we're not just prioritising older people here. We're looking at young people, giving children the best start in life, but also looking at older people, looking at lifestyle factors. So when we say safe, thriving and healthy homes and communities, yeah, the link for the document I can stick in here, Kathy. Once I've finished talking, I'll whack it into the chat. But yeah, it's about reducing loneliness. It's about looking at the whole picture of what people can access, a healthy environment, ensuring quality jobs and opportunities. Are there volunteering opportunities in your area? So there's so many things that impact that being well. Okay, so we can flick on to the next slide, please. Oh, she says. There we go. So the key messages within that document are prevention and early intervention. So I've done talks with parish and town councils before, and I have had a councillor come back to me and say, does this mean we need a new GP surgery when you talk about health and wellbeing? And no, it's not. In some areas, obviously, with all the new housing that we know in Worcestershire is happening, that may be the case. But from our point of view, when we talk about prevention, this is about helping people stay independent at home. And so all of this community work, that's what it's focused on. It's keeping people safe in their own homes, keeping people healthy and happy and independent. And I think I've used this example before, but it always resonates with me. When I had an operation on my hand last year, I had a lady in the bed opposite me who had just had a knee operation. I was all bandaged up, couldn't move anything. But she was already moving her knee. She'd come out of surgery. I came out of surgery first and I couldn't move anything. And she was out and she was already moving her knee. It was amazing. She was in her 80s and she was chatting to me about her community. She helped at a community cafe. So she was talking about how important that was to keep her active, get her out of the house, meet people. She had somebody going to pick her up from hospital. She had somebody who'd taken her to hospital. She had somebody looking after her dog. Somebody had gone to do some shopping for her, so she had things in when she got home. All of that is about her well-being, that prevention, that intervention, that means that social services are not having to work out how they're going to get her home and how she's going to be cared for when she gets home, because she's got a whole team of community around her helping her. And that's what we talk about, that resilience, that's why connections are so important in a community. And so it's also about, taking that whole system approach. What does that mean? It's about looking at the whole community, reducing those inequalities, making sure that everyone has access to advice, support, friends, physical activities, looking at the community as a whole. And that's how they can impact on everybody's lives. So if we move on to the last slide, this is really the key, is why town and parish councils are so important in this role. I can't tell you enough, the people that I've worked with so far in this role, town and parish councillors are the community. They live there. Nobody is going to care more about the community than you. You live in that community. And so you understand the community and certainly should help shape how that community, builds that resilience. So that's why town and parish councils are so key into this. Now more than ever, I've already touched on the fact that there's the local government reform. And I think there is once that tier has gone, whether it's one council or two, we don't know at the moment. The proposal's going in November. One big council or two north and south. That's the proposal that's going in. And by 2028, that will all be done. And so at that stage, town and parish councils are the only voice for their community. And as much as this fantastic document that's been created for the health and wellbeing strategy and looking at the whole system approach, communities differ. They're massively different. We've got Kidderminster Town Council, where there's 50,000 people, and then we've got smaller pockets of parishes that have 200, 400 people. And they're going to be very rural. They're going to have very different needs. And so you, as town and parish councillors, can identify those needs. You are the best place to find that and be able to help. And we're not saying you need to deliver on all of these services. There is support out there. There are partners out there. There is community members out there who can actually deliver things. And so it's certainly not putting this on your shoulders to deliver all these services that may be changing, but it's to facilitate and understand your community and help them to lead activities, bring in support organisations, partners. There's so much scope out there. And so that's why I've worked with the Good Practice Mentors, because hopefully they can help you to do some of that work. The engagement we did with them last week is just looking at different approaches, really, not just a survey. Ask people, talk to people, bring in, the whole community. There's community groups out there already that are doing some fantastic things. Ask them, are you okay? Can we help? So I think it's really exciting for town and parish councils that they can be part of this picture. And it is amazing. I've spoken to colleagues who work for district councils who have said, I've never thought of working with town and parish councils. Why? Why? They're brilliant. So this is about, just enabling you to do a really good job working with the community and getting some really good outcomes from it. So I will shut up now and I will hand you over to Jenny and Vicky to carry on and give you some support around this work.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Lucy. That is just brilliant. And I really loved the way that you kind of translated that as well, in terms of what's fixed and what's flexible, and the impact and influence, that people can have in their own communities on the ground. And I think, that's definitely something that we're going to focus on, but also how we can reframe some of that language so it's relatable. Yeah. If you could pop the definition, the WHO definition, into the chat as well, that would be really helpful, because I think we can perhaps reference back to that when we're doing some of the activities around let's get rid of the jargon and really understand what it means in practice.
Yeah, no worries. I'll pop
Thank
that in now.
you. Thank you so much. And that takes us straight in actually to an activity that Jenny and I are going to facilitate with you now. So obviously, about the strategy, about the kind of overarching objectives and how that kind of breaks down. And Lucy's just beautifully summarised that for you. So it's just an opportunity to really think now about the strategy itself and how that relates to the current work that you're doing within your own communities and how that kind of ties together. And I guess some of the key challenges for you in terms of doing that work. And as Lucy said, that, that's not all on your shoulders. That's not about you going out and delivering that strategy, but it's about you being able to make the links and to be able to engage your community members in order for that strategy to be, the vision of that strategy to happen. So 2 questions there. And we're going to go on to a software package that we use called menti.com. It's very simple. If you've got a smartphone available, that would be amazing. And you can just pop in www.menti.com and there's a code, and we'll pop that in the chat for you as well, so you've got the code to hand. If you can't get onto your smartphone, just open another tab on your laptop or PC and you can do it from there. And if you're really stuck and you can't get on, just pop your answers in the chat and we'll pick them up from there, or we'll bring them into the whole later, because we'll be able to share everybody's answers after this session. So Jenny's going to bring that up on Menti on a presentation for us so we can see the answers as they come in. So what do you think the strategy relates, or how do you think, sorry, the strategy relates to your current work within your own communities? And then the second question will be, what are some of the key challenges for you right now?
I've popped a direct link in the chat, so if people are more comfortable using just their browser, they can just follow the link straight through. So if you're struggling to get on your smartphone, you can literally just click the link in the chat and it'll take you straight in. But the web address and the code is also in the chat. I have launched the presentation, so I will just check that everyone can get in first.
Yeah.
Mentimeter is a really amazing tool, but it can take a couple of minutes to get everybody on there, but it's usually worth it because you get some really nice feedback from it. So if anyone's really struggling, do just give us a wave or a shout and we can try and troubleshoot with you. Looks like we've got a few people in there already, which is great.
Great stuff.
So I will share my screen.
I'm going to pop the questions in the chat as well, just in case anyone does struggle, and then you can see what the questions are.
Vicky, can you just make me co-host again, please?
Oh, yes, of course.
Right, I think I've come back in as a not.
Yeah, sure.
You click on my name, 3 little dots next to.
Yeah, I've done that. It's not even with you.
See if Tommy can do it.
I think I can do it. Make co-host. Has that worked?
I will check. Yes, thank you.
Great.
Brilliant.
So I can see that a couple of people are already in the Mentimeter and already giving responses, which is great. Is anyone not able to get into the Mentimeter? Give us a wave. Everybody in. So I'm going to assume that most people are in there.
The questions are in the chat if you're stuck.
Thanks. So a couple of comments already. So it can help councils to focus on the needs of the community and it will help us get started in the right direction. I'll just wait for some other responses to come in. So once you've typed your response in the box, it's just making sure that you click submit so that it comes up onto the board. Again, if you're really struggling, feel free to just drop it in the chat or just take yourself off mute and kind of share with us. Only just become a parish councillor, so I'm feeling my way, yeah, so figuring out what that looks like and how it's going to go, and offers direction to seek support. Brill, thank you. Any other thoughts on how it relates to your current work within your own communities? You can add multiple responses as well, so you don't just have to put one, you can put a few answers if you want to. Kathy looks like she's very busy typing. Any other thoughts for how the strategy relates to the current work within your own communities?
And I guess it's also thinking about what you're already doing that's kind of helping that strategy to take shape and come to life.
I think I was just going to say that, but I've gone on to the next slide by accident on Menti. But I was just going to say lots of councils are already doing these things.
Yeah.
Some of this around health and well-being without realizing it's actually health and well-being. They're just doing their job. And so I suppose it's just to allow them to expand on that work and understand where it relates to in this work. So it's not that councils aren't doing any of this stuff already. They are. I mean, Kathy's here, she's employed by a council as a community builder. So that's, brilliant that councils are already doing those things. So I think what's lovely is that if they can read that sort of strategy and think, oh, we're already doing that. It's quite a nice thing to sort of realize that they're not a million miles off. It's just directing it a little bit and focusing it a bit more. But yeah, it's certainly not that councils aren't doing it. It's just they might not realize it's part of this bigger agenda.
Brilliant.
Well, so I'm going to move us on to the next Menti slide. So what are some of the key challenges? We know challenges exist. There's no point pretending they don't. So it's about maybe getting some of those out in the open and then we can try and see how we might be able to address some of those. So what are some of the key challenges? Thinking about that strategy and how it applies to the work that you do. Your mentee should have updated automatically, but sometimes you need to kind of refresh your browser, or it asks you to kind of skip to the next slide. So communication, reaching those that we would like to help. So I guess, yeah, that kind of relates to the session that Joe did last week around outreach and those different ways of finding and engaging people. And again, if that's something that you really struggle with, we have lots of resources online. We have lots of sessions online. So do kind of reach out to us for that support. Getting the whole council on board, absolutely, it can be quite hard to help everybody see this vision. Again, one of the things we're going to be looking at today is the language that you use to try and make this really relatable to people, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Strategy often comes with lots of jargon, lots of language that people find quite hard to kind of apply to their own work. And today this is about using language that everyone can understand and everyone can kind of buy into. Identifying need, absolutely. Who is out there and what do we need to do? Where do we need to start? Again, that goes back to kind of the outreach and finding the people, finding those gaps. Having a very scattered rural community, so reaching out is challenging, absolutely, and getting to know the community is also a challenge. Again, I would kind of refer you to some of the outreach work, some of those things around some of the support we have around kind of comms and using your comms as a bit of a tool to find people. So again, if that's a particular challenge, do come and speak to us. Youth stigma, fragmented and minimal services, and short-term funding, absolutely. But community, energy, and collaboration offer hope. So great. So there are some challenges, but if we can do this right and we can kind of bring people together, then we have this hope that things can be different, which is, yeah, fantastic. And then connecting with partners and identifying funding. And it's like Lucy said, there are other people out there who are already doing some of this work and know those communities really well. So how do you kind of bring them along or reach out to them to help you do some of this work? Thanks, everybody. Anyone want to add anything to those kind of off mute? Does anyone want to add anything in the chat? Anything that we've kind of missed or they want to add some extra comment to? Feel free to talk to us just with your voice.
I was just going to say, in terms of getting the whole council on board, or indeed getting community members on board as well, in terms of being able to have the confidence to be able to really describe well in relatable language what the core benefits are, and why it's important, and how it relates to them, you know, at a kind of more strategic level, but also kind of on the ground as well. I love that about tackling some of the stigma as well, and some of the ways that communities are fragmented, and how we can maybe bring those together and really kind of, you know, the community building approach is very much that, isn't it? And it's about how we can link everything and really understand all the moving parts and how they work together. So it's great things.
Right, so I'll stop. That was our 2 mentee questions, wasn't it? So I'm going to stop sharing.
Yeah. So I'm going to share the slides with you now again, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the working with approach. And are you going to kick us off on that one, Jenny? Yeah,
I am indeed. Yeah. So fantastic. We didn't have time today to go into kind of a full-blown explanation of co-production and involvement. We just want to cover some of the basics. And I suppose rather than talking about co-production, which can feel like a huge thing to do, we wanted to kind of frame it within a working with approach and think about why this is important in practice. So we're just going to give you a few examples of some different involvement models. And I suppose the key thing to say is that at South Yorkshire Housing Association, where Vicky and I are based and where we've done a lot of this work before Good Practice Mentors, we don't have one set model. And I think a lot of people, when they set out on their working with journey, their involvement journey, they think they have to follow this kind of gold standard approach. And we want to really encourage people to see it a little bit differently and think, actually, just start somewhere, you know, get your head around some of the basics and then just give things a go. So we'll share a few models with you now. So we'll head to the next slide. So this is both a definition from Mind, which just describes what co-production is. And then you've also got a model there on the right-hand side that shows the different kind of elements, the different bits of a co-production journey. And I'm not going to read out all these slides for you. You will get them afterwards. People can kind of scan and pick out the bits that are helpful. But I suppose one of the reasons that we really like this definition from Mind is that it's quite jargon free, it's quite simple and easy to understand. So this idea of kind of service providers and users coming together to reach this collective outcome, very value driven, and builds on the principle that those who are affected by a service are the best people to be involved in designing it. Move to the next slide, please, Vicky. We've then got the ladder of participation. This is one of the models that we use sort of most frequently in our work. And I suppose one of the reasons that we really liked is that it kind of shows the way that you might work up the ladder of participation. You might work up towards doing co-design or co-production. And really everything that we're talking about would fall within, I suppose, the yellow and the green rungs of that ladder. We're really trying to encourage people to move away from just educating. We are absolutely encouraging people to move away from coercion. Luckily, that's something we don't see in a lot of communities anymore, but it still happens. But actually, we're thinking about informing, consultation, engagement, co-design, and co-production. So really doing for and doing with rather than doing to people, finding out what works for them, doing it kind of in collaboration with them. Next slide, please, Vicky. Another model that we like to share is the spectrum of involvement. And one of the reasons that I really like this is that you've got the little circles and the arrows kind of showing you the different ways that communication or information might be going in or out. So you can see that with informing, we are just pushing that information out from that big circle with kind of, I suppose, the service or the system being that big circle. We're pushing out to our community. We're not really asking for things back in. Consultation, we're asking for stuff to come in, but we're not then pushing it back out again. So we're taking information, we're mining information, but we're not really sharing the results of that. It's not a two-way process. You can then see that from involve upwards, those arrows start to change. And by the time we get all the way up to empowerment, we don't have that big circle anymore. All the circles are the same size. That information is just going round and round and round. Everybody's kind of got the same information. We're not pushing out or taking in. Everybody is sharing information or using information in the same way. We can also see that that is more difficult to get to that point, but it has a higher public impact. So again, we're talking kind of across this spectrum today and thinking about all different elements of it, but always thinking, how can we improve? How can we do things differently? And then I'll move up to the next slide, please, Vicky. And then when we're talking about co-production, these are just some of the parts of co-production. So co-production might be that umbrella term, but within that, we're talking about kind of co-planning or co-governance, co-design. So actually, these are the parameters, but how do we design within those parameters? Co-delivery, so how are our communities, people with lived experience, actually doing those things with us or even for us, like allowing us to kind of take a step back and they can take the lead. And then co-evaluation, people being involved in the evaluation again, rather than us just kind of mining data or just doing surveys. How are people's voice really captured or involved in that evaluation process? And then Kathy, you've put a comment in the chat saying we're working fairly well as a council on the levels of consultation and engagement, but there can be a disconnect when it comes to co-design, permissions, hierarchies, and decisions by committees can be kind of disempowering. Absolutely. So we kind of say we want to do co-design, but then the final decision sort of sits with us. We kind of make the final call. We hear something we don't like and we go, oh, we can't do that. And we kind of disappear into the background again. And yet for our communities, that can feel really disempowering, really frustrating, and quite disingenuous, right? So it's about actually, and one of the things we are going to just touch on today is really being clear with your community where you are at on that ladder before you set out. So really helping people understand what is on the table, what they can influence, what they can have control over. Yeah, we wish we had kind of longer today because we talk quite a lot about power and sort of power dynamics within our sessions more broadly, but yeah, we don't have all the time for that today. I'm going to move us on to the next slide. So you might know lots about co-production or involvement or kind of engagement. You might not know anything at all, but I suppose from those few slides we've just shared and thinking about kind of working with our communities on this wellbeing strategy, why is it a good idea? And I'm just going to open this up for discussion. So I'm going to encourage you to take yourselves off mute and just talk to us. Why should we do it? Why should we bother? Why should we kind of make that extra effort to do co-production, involvement or engagement? And I suppose consider this from an individual, an organisation or a community perspective? Very happy to hear responses on any of those. Why is co-production a good idea? Over to you all.
Shall I start?
Go for it.
Everyone's very quiet.
Go for it.
Well, from my point of view as somebody who's done quite a lot of community development, you have to have the buy-in from the community or it won't work. You know, there's no point in saying, right, we're going to helicopter in this project, here it is. If the community or organisations are not behind that and don't know why you're delivering that, or you're setting yourself up for failure. You want to ask the community, what do you want? How can you help? How can you contribute? Organisations as well within the community. So I'm not just talking about individuals, I'm talking about the whole. You're going to set yourself up for much more sustainable activity and support if it's really asking the community what they want. You know, I ran a project a few years ago where nothing we did was set up by me going, oh, I think this would be a good idea, let's do a film club. It came from people who, you know, really loved films, so let's set up a film club. And it go, you know, and it listening to conversations and then set up adapted activities for people who, you know, either older people or with you know, conditions like dementia and Parkinson's and those sort of conditions. So it was about maintaining health, and that came from people, and it's still going 10 years on. So it's
Brilliant.
Looking at much more sustainable approach if you've got the buy-in from the community is what I would say.
Yeah. And the passion and enthusiasm as well, right? Because that comes through, doesn't it? If people are really, really kind of excited about something.
Absolutely. Anybody else? Why is co-production a good idea? Why should we do it?
I just made a few notes. What I was thinking as fairly new to the concept of co-production. So I think it's about the reason I think it's a good idea is communities have different challenges, they have different resources, and all communities have different levels of diversity. So it's very much, I think it's not a one hat fits all approach. I think by listening to your communities and working with them, you can deliver a more tailored approach to the challenges, which at the end of the day is going to result in better help for the communities and hopefully more sustainable and empowering outcomes.
Thanks, Tommy.
Brilliant.
Great interpretation for someone who is new to the world of co-production. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think Tommy's actually so.
Oh, sorry, you popped yourself back on mute.
Yeah, we're a small community in Castle Morton, and we have assets from the point of view. We have a parish hall, there's the church, the school, and there's a lot of community involvement in those particular resources, and it's very encouraging. And we need to sort of think the next stage now. How do we develop some of these things? And we're just about to do a survey. So I think we might be picking some ideas up from here today as to what to put in, you know, our survey. Yvonne is my fellow, she's my counsellor, I'm the clerk. And I hope that's what she'll agree with. But I think Tommy sort of, you know, we've all got different needs, haven't we, in our parishes because of all the different sizes of them. And it's identifying those needs and how to take forward. And I think there's also a reservation for people to come in to join in some of these things. So I think this is what we want. We want to try and identify where the need is, and hopefully that there's somebody out there that would say, well, I'd like to take that on.
Yeah.
I think that's where we are. And then we work, it's good. Welland next door are doing some more social things like a weekly lunch. Well, we don't want to be doing that. We want to work with them to increase their numbers there, and identify how the people in the residents in our village might have that need to join in. That's something I'm trying to work with. We have got some needs, and it's how to encourage them, you know, into our neighbours.
Yeah, so rather than kind of doing it for them, it's actually saying, like, how can you help yourself? How can you join things that already exist? That's more sustainable. Yeah, it's got that kind of longer term impact. Yeah, sorry, I cut someone off there.
No, it was me. I get all excited when, you know, but I do get very excited. But I think that's, I can't remember who said it, but something about passion. And I think that's the key, is if you can instill something that people actually really care about. Because, I set up in a previous role, worked with the community to set up a bereavement group. And that really triggers with people, and people are really passionate because they may have been through it themselves or seen somebody else go through it, and they want to really help with it. And so the volunteers we recruited was because they were passionate about helping. And so whenever you're setting something up in a community, working with the community to instill that passion in them. So I don't know who said that word, but I think that's very much key to getting that co-production and getting the buy-in from the communities. Just infusing them that they can make that difference by being passionate about it. So yeah, whoever said that, that's spot on.
Well, Kathy's put something about passion in the chat as well, so it's interesting that Kathy's kind of, I suppose, put something quite similar. Co-production offers the possibility of sustainable activity, she said, but it's about how you keep people going. And are people like genuinely passionate? Are they passionate about certain aspects of it? And it's how you kind of pick that apart, I suppose, isn't it? And which are the bits that you really want to be involved in? Which are the bits we can help you be involved in? Yeah. Sorry, Vicky, you're going to add something.
No, I was just going to say, because Kathy's also further up the chat, had kind of linking into that was, the idea of involvement and including people is a great idea, but the biggest challenge is longer term engagement of enough volunteers or people to deliver and run those activities. So that kind of links in again, isn't it? People are more likely to be involved longer if it's something that they really truly believe in and are passionate about. And co-production offers the possibility of sustainable activities. Yes, it does, and it's worked brilliantly with digital inclusion projects in the past, which is great to hear. But some of the challenges around, it's hard to keep people going with the things that they seem to be passionate about. So empowering people or removing the obstacles that disempower them is essential as well. For example, those who are more isolated feel less empowered. So we need to consider, the people that aren't able to get involved and why, and how we can remove some of those barriers and make it accessible to everybody.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts from anybody around why it's a good idea?
I think for one thing, resources, and I think Tommy touched on that. I think, councils don't have everything, they and so, but other organisations might have people power, assets, funding. So that's another aspect, and you're more likely to get funding if you've got the buy-in from other organisations and the community themselves and evidence of that. So resources are definitely never mind the sort of people element, but it's resources as well can really sort of help drive these things forward.
Yeah. I think also learning from others that have done this work in other areas or within the region, and really kind of pulling out some really great examples of good practice, what's worked well, what perhaps hasn't worked so well, and how that can look different in your particular communities with the people that you're engaging with. So, as has been mentioned before, this idea that we can kind of link together and share ideas and good practice.
Right, I'm very aware of time, and I'm going to keep us moving forward. So if we skip to the next slide.
We're actually pretty bang on time.
Are we all right?
Yeah, we're doing all right. We're doing all right. I'm still getting some really great discussion. So, yeah. So I'll finish off here then, just to kind of summarize, I guess, why co-production is a good idea. And, some of this we've already really kind of looked at and explored. The fact that it does benefit everybody who's involved, the people themselves, the communities, professionals within those communities, partners within those communities, services within those communities. So it's not just about individuals, as Lucy said, and that we can really build on people's experiences, strengths and capabilities, because they are our core assets, actually. We've got the physical assets, haven't we, of buildings and all of that, but the real kind of golden nuggets of kind of what people have got to offer because of their experience, skills and strengths, and that we can do this kind of collaborative way of pulling things together and forming really great meaningful networks. We like to use that word meaningful a lot because there's no point doing it if it's not going to be meaningful and there's not going to be a really great outcome that comes out of that. So really looking at how we can put people with lived experience at the heart, which, as Tommy, experiences, voices to be heard. But it's not just about people with lived experience, it's about everybody. And then these are the core principles, really. So when Johnny shared the ladder of participation before, and we're kind of moving from the doing to the working, or the doing with, and you know, kind of moving up towards that and away from the kind of middle consultative bit, we always say that that's absolutely fine, because often you are going to be consulting and engaging with people and kind of sharing information, but it's the way that you involve them that matters. And as long as you've got these really core principles of the working with approach, and you kind of measure the way that you interact with people in this way, then you're doing some really great involvement work. Because if you ensure that equality is really there and that everybody that has something to offer is given an opportunity to contribute, and you know, not kind of thinking that any particular group of people or any particular individual has more value or influence than anyone else, and that you have got this really rich, diverse range of people that are involved. So that might look, you know, very different from one community to another. And in terms of being accessible, so that if people want to get involved, whether that's kind of from a physical, logistical perspective, or whether that's providing information, communicating, providing things at the right time, or that the language works, that it's accessible to everybody and that it is reciprocal, this two-way way of working. Everyone that's involved gets something from it. And that, you know, you're creating something together. So it's this kind of attitude of collaboration. And yeah, everybody, the services, the people, the communities are all getting something really valuable from that. So we're going to have a look next at how you can embed a working with approach within your own particular communities. And we are going to do an activity around that. Jenny's going to lead on that, and I'm going to basically kind of look at some of the things that you think about, and we're going to see if we can pick some particular themes out from that and that we can work with for the rest of the session. I'd forgotten this bit. Sorry, Jenny. That's my bad.
So I was thinking we've
I'll
got
let
a
you
couple
take that
more. Well, yeah. So just before we jump into that, we just wanted to cover a few different methods of involvement. Now, we would love to spend loads more time kind of picking up on these, but I think the offer that we kind of have is that if any of these you think, oh, I'd like to know more about that, reach out to us and we can kind of book in a call with you. So we wanted to just identify, I suppose, some formal and informal ways of engaging with people or reaching out to people. So we've obviously already had surveys mentioned a few times. We're thinking about kind of formal methods. We're also thinking about things like focus groups or community or neighbourhood forums or resident groups or governance or steering groups and boards. There will be others, I'm sure, but those are the main ones that we kind of encounter in our work quite often. When we're thinking about more informal approaches, so these are the kind of more light touch, low pressure ways of kind of involving people. We're thinking about street outreach, so Jo's session that she did last week, different ways of going out, capturing insight, finding people in the places that they already are. We're talking about pop-up events or drop-in sessions, so people can come and go as they please. They don't have to kind of sit down and go through a full structure of a meeting. Thinking about informal befriending or peer support groups. And then we also want to really highlight some more relaxed tools for capturing insight. And none of these are complicated or high tech. Post-it notes, things like stickers to get people to do what we call dot voting. So if you've got lots of ideas on a flip chart piece of paper with post-it notes, give people a sticker and say, put a sticker next to your favourite idea. Using voting in general can be a really nice way of kind of capturing insight. Using mapping, or things like letterbox toolkits. So within the Aging Better programme, which is where GPM came from, we posted out toolkits to different areas in Sheffield, and they had kind of things in them that people could use to give us feedback. They also had like just nice things to kind of capture people's imaginations. We had postcards, we had tea towels. There was all sorts of different things kind of designed for each area, but it was a way of inviting people to engage with us and then kind of giving them this nice something back. I suppose within informal methods, we want to really help people consider the importance of anonymous and non-verbal methods. So how do you give people this opportunity to engage with you without feeling like they might perhaps be penalised for their thoughts, for their views? We know from the co-production research that people can often feel if they say something, they don't like something, that they might kind of get some pushback from that, or they might perhaps lose a service or have a service kind of withdrawn from that area. So how do you give people different levels of engaging with us? And I suppose just briefly before we move into that further activity, if we just jump to the next slide, Vicky, I suppose I just wanted to ask people their thoughts on what they thought the possible risks of only using more formal methods of involvement might be. So if we only use our surveys, or we only use our kind of steering groups or our neighbourhood forums, what are the risks of that? I'm just going to open that up to the room.
It's me again. So stupid. I think following last week's session, and I've used it since in a presentation, because it was one of the, I think it was 65% of those that filled in a survey accessed one activity or support group or whatever it was, of those that filled in the survey. So 65%, it was something like that. And then only 10% of those using the outreach method, only 10% of those accessed any activity or support. I think that's the key here for me, and that's why this everything that the Good Practice Mentors are doing in these 3 sessions that they're delivering is about reaching those people that don't. It's those people that fill in the survey are really valued, really important, but you are missing those people that don't fill in the surveys, and actually those are the people that are not accessing things. It's that figure, just it stayed in my head, and then and I've used that, I would say, at least 3 times since that as a quote of why using different outreach tools is so important for councils to really understand their community. Because if they put on a forum, it will probably be those same faces that they see every time, and those voices are still really valuable, but actually you're missing a beat. You're missing those people where the real need potentially could be. And so by giving up 2 hours of a day to go and do some door knocking or stand outside Spa or whatever it is, you're going to pick up so many more insights than just filling in a tick box. I couldn't get that out of my head of what a difference that is of who fills in surveys and who doesn't. And so, yeah, for me, that's why this is, if you just use the formal, are you getting the same voices each time?
Absolutely. Brilliant. I suppose I want to really highlight that, like, surveys absolutely have a place. And I know that in the world of kind of gold standard co-production, they would survey would be a bit of a dirty word, and we don't think that. Surveys absolutely can be really useful. And those regular voices, absolutely, we want to keep hearing from them. It's not about saying we don't want your voice. It's about thinking how you do your survey as well. So what we sometimes say to people is do some informal kind of insight capturing, go out and speak to those unusual voices and use that insight to inform your survey, rather than the survey coming from your own head. Have it kind of to be informed by your community. Or what we've heard from some other town and parish councils quite recently in a session that I did is they take their surveys to like their summer events, their Christmas events, their Easter events, and they sit and do them with people. Because for lots of people, filling in a survey will feel quite inaccessible. It'll feel quite daunting, but actually sitting there and having that conversation and you doing some of that writing down for people can be one way of helping people kind of access a survey. So, but yeah, what else is out there? What else can you do? And as Kathy said, we began with online surveys or paper surveys, which were confidential or anonymous, but then we've also had these in-depth conversations which have helped you understand what the survey results really mean. So yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, and it's kind of having both sides of the conversation, the bigger picture. So yeah, absolutely keep using your surveys, but think about who you could be missing. Any kind of final thoughts on the possible risks just before we move on?
I kind of just made a note about what Jenny just said, really, about potentially with formal surveys, it might not give the opportunity to open up to further questioning and creating further ideas. You might not be asking the right questions potentially for that specific community. And then by just focusing on maybe more formal methods of involvement, you could be missing out on opportunities for collaboration and for more open discussions and potentially activities engaging different people in the communities more. Rather than just focusing on individuals, you could maybe do more opportunities with group activities to get more open discussions and creativity involved.
Real, thank you, Tommy. Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's something for us around thinking, before you set out to involve community members, just really thinking about that ladder of participation or those models of involvement and thinking, actually, where does this work sit? Is it a piece of consultation? Are the parameters already set? Or have we got scope to do something a bit more? And how do I communicate to people where we are? What's fixed? What's flexible? Vicky's already used that term a couple of times, but actually, if you're going out and saying, look, this is how much money we've got, this is how much staff we've got, this is the capacity, these are the timeframes, be honest about that, be open, and perhaps, link your tools to the level of involvement people can have. If you're going out there and saying, actually, everything's up for grabs, everything's on the table, you can completely design this with us from scratch, you might want to go beyond the survey because you want to get that depth of data. So really think about that before you kind of set out on that journey and communicate it to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, how can you bring the core principles of the working with approach into that as well? So, even if you're using a survey, you can still really consider how that's accessible and how the language relates. So you can still think about the principles when you're doing a piece of consultation and using a survey, which is one way, but I think we've agreed it's not the whole way.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we are definitely going into that activity now. Apologies for that.
I'm just wondering, Vicky, if we want to do a quick break at this point.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So, yeah, absolutely.
If we just take a quick sort of 5-minute break, stretch away from the computer, and if we come back here for sort of just after 11:05, and then we'll dive back in. Thanks, everyone.
Fantastic.
Welcome back, everyone. Me and Vicky have just been discussing we are slightly behind. We always are. We're just chopping a couple of bits out. We always try and squeeze too much in.
I spoke too soon, didn't I? I knew I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I'll be fine. We're on time.
We're never on time, Vicky. That's what I know
I
about
know, too much to say. And also, people have lots to say, and that's great that we can dive into some really great discussion.
Yeah.
So I've just suggested that we cut it down to 3 prompts for this next activity to kind of get to the core points, and then I'll put it in the right place.
Okay, I will I'll try and catch my head up around that. Are you sharing the Miro from your side? Yeah.
I will do. Yeah, I'll just let you introduce it, and then I will.
So I suppose for the rest of the session, we are really trying to drill down, dig into kind of language, what this means. I know we've already we've started thinking about how that well-being strategy applies to your work. But we want to unpack it a bit more, I suppose. So we want to think about what the work you're doing really means to you, to others in the community, to people who experience kind of health and well-being challenges every day. And Vicky's going to try and map everything that we are thinking about on a Miro board. So again, Miro can be a really lovely way to sort of capture people's insights. It is a bit more high tech for some people. So for some people, it can feel a bit overwhelming. Vicky's a whiz on Miro, though. She's going to be doing this for us. And then after we've kind of captured some of these on Miro, we're going to kind of pull out a couple of themes and then apply a different approach to them around language. Hopefully that will make sense as we go, I think. So Vicky, let's just dive in, I think.
Yeah, I'll bring it up on the Miro board and it'll make much more sense for sure. Okay, so this is what your Miro board looks like. And you don't have to operate this today, so don't worry about that. But just to show you that if we zoom in, you'll see everything that's been pre-plotted on there for these activities that we're going to do with you now. And when you zoom out, you'll get all of the relevant information in the right bit. So this is the slide that Jenny has just shared with you here. And we're just going to ask you 3 simple questions, and we'll do it in turn, and then I will map the information on there for you. So the first question we're going to ask you is, what does health and well-being mean to you? What does it actually mean to you? Then we're going to ask, what does health and well-being mean to your community? So how might that look different or similar or the same? And then finally, we're going to look at how you might apply the co-production approach, the working with approach, into your work with communities and what that might look like in practice. But we'll go through them one at a time, and then we'll just plot that on here for you. So
yeah, we'll start off with, what does health and well-being mean to you? So Vicky's going to be busy kind of capturing our thoughts. So open up the floor. What does that phrase, that word, those words mean to people in this call? We've obviously had the lovely WHO definition, but what's your definition?
Audio.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
Or typing.
I can see you. No, just audio will be great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Health and well-being to me means striking a work-life balance and getting home and the council work equally stable, if you like. Stresses coming from council can impact on a home and vice versa.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for your own personal work, trying to make sure that doesn't impact on your home life and that you have that nice balance. Brill, thank you so much, Chris. Anyone else?
The benefits of sharing.
I like that. Thank you, Christina. Anybody else? Kathy, if you want to drop it into the chat, we can kind of transfer it over. Anyone else? What does health and well-being mean to you? Tommy, you're welcome to add into this as well.
I would say health and well-being could mean feeling part of a community, not feeling alone or isolated, just feeling generally supported in life, I think is quite an important aspect of health and well-being.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
I would say feeling, if I feel motivated, that's when I feel really well.
Yeah.
It's, when you wake up in the morning, right, I want to get up and I want to do things. And then the days where you go, oh, I just don't, it's that motivation.
Yeah.
It's having a purpose, I suppose.
I like that. Vicky, if you go on bulk mode, you can just type a bit quicker. I don't know if you bulk mode. So if you
You're
go
telling me I'm a whiz on this.
Well, you are, but go to your post-it notes tab and then scroll down.
Yeah.
And if you click on bulk mode, you can just literally type and press enter, type and press enter.
Oh.
Can't believe I've never introduced you to that before.
Oh.
So, sorry, right. So we've got motivation and purpose in the chat. And Lucy said motivation as well.
And Yvonne's also said about achieving your potential, physically and emotionally.
So Vicky, you type and press enter, and then you type and press enter, and then when you're done, you add them all in bulk.
I
have to keep coming in and out of it. Yeah, it's
excellent.
Really
okay. Let's go then. Sorry,
so,
what have I missed?
Motivation and purpose, and then just press enter rather than done.
Yeah.
Being able to achieve your potential, both physically and emotionally. There's nothing like typing in front of other people, is there, to get your spelling wrong? The pressure to spell. I think for me, it would be just feeling physically and mentally well, healthy, but for both sides.
Yeah.
And then we've just got another one in the chat from Kathy, which I will read out to you. So, passionately living your purpose, regardless of physical state.
I like that.
And then I'm going to put this onto a separate one. Physically and mentally, health longevity is also important. It's a mouthful, Kathy, but it's absolutely true.
I would say also, though, the physical and mental health of those around me, if my kids are, and my husband and my parents, and if they're physically and healthy, mentally well, that makes me feel, if my kids are happy, I feel happy. So it's those around you.
Great.
Look at that.
I can't believe we've never talked about bulk mode. Right. What does health and well-being mean to your community then? Let's move us on to this next section.
Could we just have the definition of who in there just to see it? Do you mind,
thanks,
please?
Kathy. Good luck. No, thanks for joining. Yeah, do you want me? I'll read it out for you. I'm just going back up to the top. So, a state where everyone is able to realize their potential. I don't know if it'll all fit on one post-it note. It should do. Can cope with the normal stresses in life. Can work productively. And able to contribute to their community.
Thank you. So now it's about how you translate that and what you think it means to your community.
So now if you want that to be in a different colour, I would come out of this bulk and enter another bulk. And then you can, never mind. So yeah, we've had what it means to you. Does it mean something different to our community? Does it mean something the same? The people that you meet and interact with?
I was a social prescriber, and I think that's driven me even more for people to know what's at the end of their road. It's being informed, being well informed of what's going on in your community.
I feel like another point could be feeling like your voice is being heard within your community.
something around maybe be like you being in control of your own health and well-being as well. Like you are part of those decisions, and you feel like you are making decisions that are keeping you healthy.
Probably feeling that you're cared for and that you can contribute to help to care for the rest of the community, participating in everything.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah.
And maybe opportunities within your community. We're talking about people feeling motivated and having purpose. Some people might struggle with that, and there might not be the opportunities in their community.
Absolutely. Any others that might be different to what we've already got, kind of your own understanding? Okay, I'll move us on to the next section then. I think Vicky, very aware of time.
So this is one now, sorry, I was just going to clarify. So this is more about how we can bring in the involvement or working with approach and methods and what that might look like in practice to help achieve those things.
So this is going back to those models of participation we showed you, those models of involvement. Which of those values and principles might support your work with this health and wellbeing strategy? Thinking about your definition and what we think it might mean to the community. I mean, I suppose.
I would say it's basically improving engagement, two-way, because I think that's a massive challenge for parish and town councils, is people understanding what they do. So that communication both ways, that I think one of the pictures said about that involvement.
Yeah, the spectrum of involvement, I was thinking.
Yeah, so it's coming from both directions, because I think there's no point in going out to the community when they think you're just there to fix poo bins. They need to understand who and what you do before they can sort of come to you with their needs, to know that you can actually impact that, whether it's you themselves or advocating for the community. So it's just improving engagement all round, really, both directions.
I suppose for me, I was also thinking that it's as simple as asking people what they need and what they want, and what you can do for them. Christina, were you going to add something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's sometimes being a parish or town council, you have that government heading, don't you? And a lot of us have other hats as well. So we're so much part of the community. And I was just thinking, because we're just about to embark on this survey, and at the moment we deliver a newsletter to every it started off as it started off as a what's on, and it's now sort of getting expanded because we lost our parish magazine, we lost the church magazine, and people like that. There was quite a lot of loss. People, I know in this day of resourcing, but they sometimes like that thing in their hand to keep referring
Absolutely,
to.
Yeah.
And so we've gone on to our own parish newsletter, and I have no trouble finding councillors to deliver it. They love going around the village, and I think I picked up this morning, I think we're about to embark on this village survey, but also how we actually do it and think carefully about the questions and how we actually deliver it. What mode we deliver it. I think just sort of putting things online, just is not ideal. I think this personal contact is rewarding, and that's what came out of one of our recent deliveries, is a counsellor finding somebody with a need. You see, what was, because that's another thing. What is the position of a counsellor in helping somebody? There's a whole matter there, isn't there?
I love that.
Care. You've and that's officialdom comes in a bit there, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't just
and also celebrating that counsellors are, I have to think about this all the time. They are giving their own time.
Yes.
I think there's a real lack of perception from the public that because they are counsellors, that they are getting these expenses, and on a local level, they are not getting anything. They are just people who live in the community that care, and so it's that perception. It's almost like councils need to. It, I don't know what the answer is of how we kind of help promote the fact that these people are giving up their own time because they care about their community, and that again, that's that two-way conversation about who the council are and how they can engage better with that, because they really do get it. Yeah. The value, that's the word.
Yeah, because the
how
success
do
of
you acknowledge and celebrate that?
Yeah.
the success of it all isn't a personal success. It's the success within the community. What you've achieved, how has it been successful in the community, isn't it?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay.
Just as an example, we in our parish, when we set off 2 years ago as a new council members, decided that we wanted to engage with the parishioners, and we set up what we called a community conversation event.
Yeah.
We've held 3 now, where we've invited the parish, which is 2,500 people, and we've ended up with about 60 people coming to each of the events.
Amazing.
We use the post-it notes and put questions up and ask them to write their comments and what things that they wanted to know about, or what things they wanted to develop or have us develop with them. And we tried to engage them into the Witch Haven games, because that was something else that we thought that we could join in with the whole of Worcestershire. Because we're so far north of in the top of Worcestershire, it didn't happen because people weren't prepared to travel the full length of the county to join in. But anyway,
I did try and tell them they needed to move some of the events that don't go
Yeah.
They just keep doing them in Evesham, and it drives me crackers. I have tried, Chris.
Thanks, Lucy. But I mean, that's the sort of thing that we tried to develop, but we were so amateurs, so amateurish with our efforts, because we had no prior knowledge, no guidance, I mean, we hadn't got Lucy then.
But
So
I mean, you
it
say
was
you're
like
amateur,
that.
but you know, calling something a community conversation feels quite accessible to people. The power of a post-it note, the power of allowing people just to write and kind of, so actually these don't have to be kind of groundbreaking methods. It's about actually sometimes stripping back the methods that we've used perhaps in the past and just making it really accessible. And yeah, we hear that kind of community conversation term in lots of councils and lots of local areas. So I think it's a lovely way of kind of referring to it.
Yeah. And I just want to say, Yvonne, I've added yours in there. And I've reframed that as I've put that on there as learning about what people need and being open to that. Even if you're at the beginning of that journey, that is part of the whole involvement approach, actually going out and learning and listening, and understanding, and actually being prepared to do that.
And Yvonne's just asked, did somebody report on the meeting in the pub? This would perhaps be a good inclusive event.
Absolutely.
Yes, that was Drake's Broughton and Wadborough. So the people in Wadborough, Yvonne, they've got a Wadborough association, because it's a parish council that covers 3 areas, and so the people of Wadborough, they don't have a village hall, so they meet in the pub, and the pub are really open to that engagement. So yeah, it doesn't, obviously the formal meetings are not allowed to be in pubs, but that doesn't mean that any engagement can't be in a pub, because you're going to reach a whole different group of people. If some people won't want to go in the pub, but that's the thing about offering the different ways of this engagement. That's
absolutely
exactly what we're banging on about, is engagement doesn't have to be one way. There's lots of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And that comes back to the idea of a survey, doesn't it? It's like, do a survey, do a community conversation, do a meeting in a pub. You're going to capture all those different voices. And yeah, Joe talks a lot about the importance of pubs in engaging older men, because that's somewhere they might feel more comfortable. But if we're thinking about perhaps ethnic minorities, they might not want to go into a pub. So again, just being really aware of the different diversities and different needs within your community.
She likes hanging about in betting shops as well.
She does. Right, we should probably move you on now to our kind of final activity. So Vicky's going to sort of introduce the model, the concept very briefly. I suppose just worth saying, if the model that we refer to kind of you think, oh, that sounds really interesting, we run a full 2 hour session online for free on this kind of model and this approach. But yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So before we go into that, I just really want to invite you to maybe come up with some core themes for each of the things that we've just discussed that we can use in this next activity.
Do you want me to do that while people are talking? Could I do that?
Do you want to pick some out?
Yeah. You
Fantastic.
do the from the heart and I'll pick out some themes.
Wonderful. Okay, I'll stop sharing and I'll carry on. Thanks, Jenny. That's great. Okay, so co-production from the heart came out of a piece of co-design work with the Aging Better programme. And it was a way of really trying to understand and translate what co-production meant to the different partner areas. Based on the fact that there were 14 different partner areas across England, it was a huge programme, and co-production and the working with approach was at the core of everything. So we wanted to really understand what that meant, moving away from the jargon of co-production, because we hear it in sort of jargonistic terminology all of the time, and really get to the point. So it kind of came from the heart and not from the kind of definitions themselves. So this is where this model actually came from, and this is in effect what happened as a result of asking people and going out and really finding that out in different areas, in different regions, and from different perspectives. And we kind of knew that, generally speaking, at the core for Aging Better, for that particular programme, was all about people coming together to find a shared solution, a meeting of hearts and minds, so to speak. So that kind of message really resonated and really was kind of threaded through all of our involvement and working with work. So it's very multifaceted in its nature, though. So it can feel quite complicated. So we wanted to cut through that complexity and really kind of be able to explain it in simple, human, relatable language, rather than jargon further alienating people from getting involved and working with us and getting involved in their communities. So this is really what this activity is about, and this is what we're going to use this model for, to kind of reframe some of the themes that you've just identified. So first and foremost, it's kind of understanding that, if we all start our journey from different places and different levels of understanding, that can really put up barriers and can kind of disconnect people from what it is that we're trying to do, and it can feel really confusing if people don't understand the language, and it can create further power imbalance as well. And we talk a little bit more about this on the session that Jenny just mentioned, but it's just really understanding the risks around jargonistic and terminology that just doesn't relate or translate. So this is what it looked like, and we have the whole sort of model that we can share with you, and we share that more in the 2-hour workshop that we do. But at the end of the day, we kind of had the jargonistic explanation at the heart, and this is just one example. So one of the core principles of the working with approach is recognizing people as assets. That's not really a nice way to describe people. We understand that we mean that people are valuable, that they've actually got stuff to offer. So we wanted to reframe that. And this is how it was reframed when we did this particular activity. So what that actually means is that we can nurture people's wisdom. We can listen to their stories. We can really appreciate what it means to have lived experience. That we can recognize the untapped potential that people have and really nurture that and kind of encourage that to come out. We can really focus on what's strong and what's available, and not what's wrong and where all the problems and the sticking points are. And if we can combine people's knowledge and experience, then wow, we've got something really great that we can tap into, drawing out people's skills and strengths and valuing everybody's opinion as we go along. So this is what it looked like when we kind of fed that through the Aging Better filter and the model co-production from the heart. And we split it down into these three particular steps, if you like. So first of all, we had the definition and we reframed it into common language. Then we really dived deep into really understanding what that actually meant. And they became our key value statements. And then we put some sentences together to really describe how that can help us to take action and work towards what it was that we wanted to achieve. So the desired input, impact, and outcome. So in this particular example that I used earlier, this is how we split that down by using the whole model. Reframing it into this means tapping into older people's skills and experiences. This is how our projects, services, and activities develop, flourish, and grow. Then the key statements was around combining people's knowledge and experience and valuing everyone's opinions. These were our values that I described earlier. And then the summarizing statement that we came to was that older people have so much to show us and tell us. They are the experts in terms of what needs to happen and what's needed in their communities. So let's really use that knowledge and make that happen. So this is what we'll be doing now. We'll be using this kind of model and this idea of this model in a slightly different way, where we'll identify some of the core health and well-being themes that you've just been talking about and that we've identified in our discussions, and we'll look at translating those into common and relatable language, and then identify ways in which you can confidently talk about those themes with community members. And then finally, consider ways in which you might actively involve community members and how to communicate that effectively. So we're just going to break that down in that way. And we're going to go off into groups to do that. So you can have your little huddles and really kind of look at that and translate it in a way that feels good for you. But I guess before we do that, we want to just go back to the mirror board and look at the themes that we've come up with.
I pull them out. Yeah. I was wondering whether, I don't know, just for the sake of time, whether we just did do one all together.
Yeah, of course.
Which have got their heads around it, so we could just pick one of the themes that I've identified and really kind of dig into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do that.
Yeah.
So does that make sense in terms of, let me just take us out of here for a second, in terms of the kind of why we use that model, how that model was used, and kind of what we got out of kind of using it and relating it to what it is that we want to achieve. Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier just to do with this activity, isn't it? And just to give it a go.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant. Okay, so talk us around the themes then, Jenny, that you've come up with.
No pressure. No pressure. I suppose I've tried to just pull out the things that kind of the main things that were coming out and that kind of encompass everything. So I've put feeling supported by those around you, feeling well, and then I've got connected and balanced. Those are my three themes, kind of what it meant to us. And then I suppose similarly, we've got contributing and achieving and feeling heard and valued. So they're all very similar in terms of what well-being means to us and to our community. And then I did theme the kind of different approaches that we might use, but I suppose they might not be as helpful for this activity. But yeah, taking multiple approaches, listening, hearing, and learning, and communicating what we can do for each other.
Okay.
How did I do?
Yeah, but that's really good. So we've just really tried to, I guess, give the things that you talked about earlier an overarching kind of theme. So connected and balanced.
I thought connected and balanced might work quite well.
I do. Yeah, let's work with that one, shall we?
Dig into that and what that means.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we kind of look at the theme of what does health and well-being mean to you and your community? Yeah.
Yeah, shall I copy that over to the other side of the board?
Brilliant.
Sorry, Vicky, I'm going to let you carry on. Leave this.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Okay, so we'll do it all together then, as Jenny suggested, just because of time, to make sure that we all understand it and we can all use it in practice. So the first part then is to create a jargon-free human language description of what we mean by connected and balanced, because you might understand that, I might understand that, but not everyone might really understand what that means. So if we were to kind of, I guess, really explore that and widen that theme, how would we describe that if we were wanting to talk to somebody about it? So, you know, good health and well-being means being connected and balanced. And there's no right or wrong with this, by the way. Just chip in and we will put those descriptions that you described down as you're saying it.
Well, are you connected, community connected, but you're balanced in acknowledging and identifying the respective needs? Have I grasped that?
Absolutely. But I suppose I would encourage you to, and I would think, would that language, and maybe because of time we haven't had a chance to kind of really stress this, would that language make sense to everybody? So we say, like, does it pass the toddler test or does it pass the mum test?
Yeah.
So would anyone who doesn't work in that environment or anyone who works in this kind of field get that language straight away?
Yeah.
Or is it a bit like jargon?
And I guess another point could be balanced can mean different things to different people. For some people, balance might be the work-life balance. For some people who potentially aren't in employment, balance could mean something very different to them.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose connected means, do you know what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
It's putting that into a sentence and not a question. I can't think how to do it.
That's fine. It could be a question.
Do you know what's going on? You know, you're connected if you know what's going on. You know, it's if I know that there's a group that happens that I might be interested in down the road, I feel connected to that. It's my choice then whether I go or not. But if at least I know it's happening and the people in the community are okay, and so it's I don't know quite how to word it, but I know what I mean.
Because the choice is the balance, isn't it? You choose whether you're going to balance on the side, but somebody else might counterbalance you and say, well, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
That's part of my need.
There's that thing people say, isn't it? Like, I want to feel invited even if I don't want to go.
Yeah, exactly. And
I want to know that I felt included and I was invited, but I still might not go along to it. Because
at that stage in your life, you might not need something, but it's knowing that that is an option or that is a choice. You know, because I might not, you know, I know this weekend that because of social media, because of that there's a food festival going on in Droitwich, and I could meet some friends there and I could, you know, so I know that's going on because I'm connected to social media, but some people might not be. So as Christina said, it's those lines of communication, the newsletter, you know, so it is, I think it is about knowing that there is stuff out there, even if you're not accessing it. So it's just that information and
feeling involved.
You're sharing it. Yeah, you're sharing it. Aren't you? You're doing that. You're doing the automatic thing of sharing it. It might not affect. It might not be relevant to you, but you're doing that sharing, aren't you?
Yeah.
Great, loving it. Okay, so you know, at the minute we're just getting descriptions, we're just getting ideas and putting it into language that really feels relatable and that can mean different things to different people. Yes, absolutely. So we might translate it I feel slightly differently. Like, sorry, go on.
Sorry, should there be something like I feel welcome? Like there's a statement there, like that's really simply what I suppose connected might mean to someone.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm trying to think of the balanced, what does that mean for somebody and how would you put that into
Language.
user-friendly language?
I wonder if like I can do the things I want, and like I can choose to do the things I want.
Well, that's what we've used the word choose, haven't we? Quite a few
that
times.
choice.
That choice.
Yeah.
I guess being in control of your own lifestyle.
Because it's funny, I'm working with a councillor up in the Bromsgrove district, who's struggled with her own health, and her drive is that she doesn't want anyone to go through that on their own. And so that's why she wants to make sure people feel connected, and that balance. But it's trying to put it. I mean, I'm so sort of embroiled in this sector where we do use this language.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
And
but you were sorry,
really
Luce.
hard to get out of that.
It is, and that's part of this activity, is recognizing that and being just honest about that. But you were saying earlier, weren't you, about the kind of the real importance of mental and physical health, and maybe it's something as simple as that. My mental and my physical health feels okay, and there's the balance in that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even pick that apart, Vicky, and you could be like, my head and my body, couldn't you? Because I think mental and physical health can also feel really jargony to people. So actually, like, my head and my body feel good. Like, that could be part of it. Sorry, Christina,
it's my
you were
mind,
to
isn't it? Because I think people struggle with, and actually, we talk about poor mental health. I think everybody experience, when we talk about poor mental health, it's coping. Are you coping? Are you managing? Are you balanced? Because mental health it's just such a broad term.
It's such a personal thing as well.
It is such a personal thing.
Sorry, I think Christina's really got something she wants to add.
No, sorry.
Yeah,
I should put hand up, shouldn't I? Apologies. I was just picking up on that word recognise. So recognise in balance, recognise the opportunities available. But sometimes I appreciate you don't see it yourself, do you? You need somebody to identify it for you.
Can I just say happy and involved?
Love that.
Involved, yeah.
Love
really
that. Simple. Love it. Cutting through.
That's better. Happy. I like that.
And again, that means different things to different people, but it's a word that we all know, right? We know what happy means.
But it doesn't have to mean it's contented. Is that a word? It doesn't mean you have to be elated.
Yeah.
It just content. I'm content with where I live, my family, my friends. I'm content.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're not using the whole of the co-production from the heart model in this activity, but we're using the kind of idea behind it to really be able to reframe and de-jargonize language and find, relatable words.
And it's interesting, Lucy, because I think, I did this activity with Help for Heroes on Monday, so like national charity, and we were talking about kind of the language they use, and this one guy in the room just really struggled. He just said, I'm so used to using this word. I'm so used to using this language. I say it and it makes sense. And I'm like, yeah, but it doesn't make sense to the people that you are working with. So it's really challenging yourself as well. And I think sometimes people think me and Vicky are being a little bit picky. I'm trying not to use the word pedantic because that's jargon. Like, we really pick on people and we're like, no, that's jargon. And they're like, come on. But it is about really breaking down those words. I
think Jo touched on it last week in the engagement workshop, even in posters, in newsletters,
absolutely
reducing it down to what, don't use paragraphs, cut it down to a sentence of what you mean, and even language like a coffee morning instills something in people. Whereas if you say, come for a cup of coffee, is different.
Different invite, yeah. I hope this is helpful for your survey, Christina. I hope this is a helpful
Yeah, absolutely.
language.
That's what I love about these workshops. They really make you think. It's, it's exhausting.
Yeah, mine's like,
They are exhausting.
so
Can
you
we
won't feel very
try and
balanced
move on, Vicky, or
when you
should
come
we
out of
stick
this.
in? Sorry, Vicky.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just going to say, I've just put people can recognize themselves, because I think that was a really, really valuable thing that you just said there. So I've just popped that on there as well. Okay, so now we are going to go to where's the last bit gone?
Are you looking for the focused on guiding and enabling you to?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
If you just scroll down, it's just below where you are now, and then go to the right. There you go.
To the right.
Go down again. Stop. Go left.
Field travel sick.
Stop. It's there. Zoom in. It's there in those orange boxes.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, so now we're looking more at the working with approach and involving your community. So these are the things that we picked out. Focused on guiding and enabling.
Hang on, no, these aren't the themes. They were already in there. Do you want the themes from
the themes. Yeah.
So it was, let me move them down. Sorry, those orange boxes were already there.
Thank you. We've just not moved them across, that's all. Yeah. And there they are, as if by magic. Ding.
So these were the 3 themes that I pulled out of the kind of working with approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll take one of those themes and we'll have a go at translating it.
Does anyone have a preference in which one we look at? Which one we de-jargon? Or which action statements? Oh, are we doing action statements now?
Well, they are action statements in effect, aren't they? Because it's about how we can use these approaches to actually work towards what it is that we want to be able to do, and how we want to be able to involve people. So we can use them as action statements. So which one would you like to choose to work with out of those 3 in the green?
Well, if you're picking up the communicating what we can do for each other, is that in practice us looking to do a survey?
I particularly pulled that out of people that we had a few comments in that section where people said so we had celebrating the value of council members, understanding what a councillor does, learning about what people need, and that being kind of a 2-way conversation. So I really wanted to kind of pick up on that, I suppose. And this you understanding your community, but your community understanding you as well.
I think from that as an action point, it's, talking about your survey, Christina, it's showing them, the people, what you're going to do with that information, and showing them that there are practical actions that both the council can work with the community on. So what those actions are as a result of listening. So I think that's, people are more likely to fill in a survey, aren't they, if they believe that you're going to do something with it. And so it's really showing, one particular council I'm working with have just come to the end of a parish plan. They've kind of pretty much finished all the actions in it. This might sound familiar, Chris, wherever you are. That they've just finished that, and I've said to them, have you actually celebrated that and shown the community that you've actioned over the last 10 years, that those have all actually taken place and been actioned and completed. And again, that's something that councils just should do a little bit more of, and look at what we've done, and then people are more likely to engage further, because they can see that, okay, I'm going to give my opinion and what my needs are. What's the point if nothing's going to happen from it?
Yeah. It's in, I suppose, in a sense, it's that kind of like, you said we did, or you said we can't do. it's okay to say that as well, like you asked for and we can't deliver, but here's why. So it's giving that kind of, we call it like closing the loop.
Yeah.
But also,
I was going to say that, but I didn't use it.
Also, with if we're talking about co-production, is how can you be involved in some of those actions?
Yes. Yeah.
So you are instilling that.
Yeah. So you said, and we need
model.
you too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would like to see this in our community, how can you, if this is a need that you've identified, join with us and not necessarily become a counsellor, but join with us and drive this forward.
I like that.
I'm going to say, take this forward. Yeah, brilliant. Love that.
Any other kind of actions we can do for that sort of communicating what we can do for each other?
For me, it's understanding what everyone has to offer. So, within the community, we've got different people with different lived experience, and also the counsellors themselves will have their own lived experience. So, it's not just for community members to share their lived experience. I suppose it's how you can really kind of work together to understand that.
Well, that's a consequence of the success I enjoy with the parish councils I'm with, because the councils have actually taken on responsibilities of interests that they enjoy. So ultimately, going into a survey, they won't be challenged too much with what comes back in need. It's potentially achievable what's identified in the need. That's the thing. It's not a panic station. Oh gosh, this is not something we hadn't contemplated. It's I suppose until you know what the need is, you can't really work with it, can you? And that's the whole point of the survey.
Yeah,
initially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Goodness me, you have given an awful lot to contemplate.
I'm so pleased, Christina. It's exactly what it is thinking differently. It is thinking differently, and that's why these workshops are so important. And I only hope if we deliver more that we get more engagement with different counsellors. But it is thinking slightly differently.
Because we're only small, you see, we're only 270 households, you see.
Yeah.
So it's just over, 500, but extremely active. My mother council is even smaller than that.
The thing to say as well, Christina, is if you want to reach out to us and book in half an hour for us to look at that survey with you, that's what we're here for. That's what we're funded for.
I like that.
Send us what you've got. We'll book in some time to chat through. That's kind of part of our role is helping people develop these skills for themselves. So yeah, I'm very aware we've got 5 minutes left. So should we briefly just summarise, Vicky, and then capture some feedback? We have run out of time for a couple of the slides at the end around thinking kind of who else, but you will get the slides at the end. So I would encourage people to kind of go to the end of the slide deck and have a think about some of the prompts we've put on there, just around who else can kind of help you with this work, who's missing, who needs to be involved, and kind of what needs to happen after that. So yeah, if you move to kind of the end of the slide deck, there's just a few prompts for you there, which I'm sure Vicky will just briefly show you. But we don't have loads of time to kind of dig into those.
And also, you will have that board afterwards. So we will say the royal we, that'll probably be me. I will tidy that up and put that into some comprehensive sort of ways of thinking about how to, translate that and where you can pick up that information. Yeah, so these are some of the questions that we just popped in that you might consider to help you with that, take that forward. So it's not about doing it on your own, it's about who else is there to support and represent. And this is where we wanted to end today, really to kind of help you think about a key thing that you'll take away from this particular session. Hopefully it's not an unbalanced head, heart and body, and what change you want to prioritise in your community interaction. So we've got a final mentee for that.
Yeah, So it's the same board as before. I'll just share the link again. If you're still on the Menti on your phone or another device, it should just have updated, but I will just share that Menti links again. So you've got the direct link there, and you've also got the code again. So we'd just love to know the key thing that you might be taking away from today's session. We do pretty much all of the work that we deliver is kind of tailored and bespoke. So it is really helpful for future work to know which bits we kind of pull out and perhaps use again, which bits maybe weren't so useful. Yeah, for you, what's the key thing that's kind of stood out? So great, you're not on your own, work with other community groups, individuals, absolutely. Who else is already doing this work? Who else already knows that community and can help you reach them? Keep jargon to a minimum, absolutely, to reach all age groups in the community, absolutely. Challenge yourself with jargon, challenge others. We always talk about being a jargon ally. So if you're in a room, a call, a meeting, and you hear a piece of jargon, someone said the other day, like, pretend to be stupid, pretend to ask the silly question and say, sorry, can you just let me know what that means? I don't know. So wave that jargon red flag.
Yeah, and some groups do have flags as well that they wave, like literally. So it's like an all-inclusive thing that it's going to give people permission to do that.
Think about formal and informal approaches. Great, yeah. Shared ideas to progress, using different methods of listening to the community. Great. And what I would say is, again, if something's kind of stood out for you today, feel free to look at our other sessions that we run. All of our online sessions are free. They're all between sort of 60 minutes and 2 hours. We'll share the Eventbrite link with you as part of the follow-up, and come along if you want to learn a bit more. We have also got another session on the 12th of August that we're running just for this network around asset mapping. So where are the places that you should go? Who are those other groups? So if we're talking about, you're not on your own, Vicky and Joe are going to be guiding you through actually who is it you should be speaking to? Where should you be going? What are those assets in your community that you could identify that might be able to help you with this work? So that's on the 12th of August. We'll make sure you get that link as well with the follow-up. And then just the final question with 1 minute to go, what change do you want to prioritise in your community interactions? And this is prioritise. What's the one thing that you walk away from today thinking, that's where I'm going to start? Yeah. You're only one person often. You aren't paid, I don't have loads of time. What's the key thing that you could kind of make a start with? Big or small?
Don't
know. Christina's brain is just melting.
Don't worry. Yvonne's saying be part of the discussion for the survey. Yeah.
Yeah, great. No worries, Chris. Yeah, we're recording all of the sessions. We'll be sharing slides and recordings for all 3 of the sessions that we've done. So yeah, we will make sure we share them. Again, the asset mapping session is one that I believe Vicky and Joe, you run on a fairly regular basis online. So there'll be a similar opportunity coming up again for you.
Yeah, absolutely. There will.
It won't be as bespoke as the one we're running on the 12th, but we do.
No, but you'll get the gist.
Yeah. So making everything as accessible as possible. Thank you. It's a great and simple priority. That's something that I think you can apply in all areas of your work.
Yvonne, through email, I believe, is where everything will be shared collectively.
And I will be sharing it through Calc streams to all councils across the whole county.
Yeah. So we'll be sending everything out to your emails today if you've attended this session, but Lucy will be sharing it as well.
I just want to say thank you for going on the journey with us and just like allowing this session to just kind of evolve. We had a lot of information in there, so we've gone where you needed to go with it. And you might not be very clear on your priority just yet, but hopefully that will kind of land and come to the forefront once you've kind of taken in everything and had a little think about it. So I really, really appreciate you being so interactive and opening up lots of discussion.
Yes, thank you, everyone. And I'm sorry, we're 2 minutes over. Sorry to take up 2 extra minutes of your day, but thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to meet you and perhaps see you in the next session.
Thank you so much, everyone.
It's been really enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Vicky, do you want to stay on?